my name's Andrew Tweedie, and I work for Clyde Co, which is a global firm. In the office here we are today is Dubai, and I'm originally from Scotland, and I went to University of Aberdeen, and now I'm here working in the construction and projects team on the dispute side.
Thank you so much. And why did you decide to study at the University of Aberdeen, and why particularly law course?
University of Aberdeen is a great university. I'm from Scotland, so it wasn't a secret to me how great it was, and fantastic facilities, great for students there to learn and develop, and I mean, you know yourself, having been there, what it's like. It's difficult to describe until you go there yourself, but there's so much history, and particularly for a course such as law, it's got a great reputation, so that was an easy choice, I think, for me. And then in terms of the actual degree itself, doing law with European legal studies, that was more a case of I wanted to do something that allowed me to have a kind of more international feel to it. The university itself was full of European students in particular, but internationals too, so it was quite exciting in my mind to also kind of experience what they do, coming as a foreigner to a different place and see what it's like. So I was attracted to the idea of doing an exchange as well. That was certainly part of the deal that appealed to me. So
interesting. And what are some of your favorite memories from Aberdeen, from like social life of it?
Social life, well, I've got lots of friends even today that I have regular contact with, that they're all from those days. I used to do some sports. I was in the rowing club, and that was a good way to spend a Saturday morning and other days in the week. But yeah, I mean, you get to know your classmates. You spend a lot of time together in different lessons, and you know, when you go to tutorials or and doing sports. So for me, just sitting on the lawn, hanging out with friends, going to the pub as well, part of the culture there. That was the thing I enjoyed the most about it, rather than the studying, if I'm honest. The social side.
And before entering legal practice, you worked in retail with Hugo Boss. Did any transferable skills from that environment help you when you're starting out in the legal profession? Yeah,
absolutely, I would say. I think probably everything that isn't legal knowledge from that job is transferable. There was lots of learning points for me. You know, you turn up day to day, there's an air of professionalism there when you're in sales. You want people to come in, feel welcome, that they can trust you, trust your opinion. You know, a bit like law in a way, that there is a sales dynamic to it. You've got to convince them that your advice is better than any other firm down the street, and that you've got their best interests, you know, at heart. It's kind of the same if they're coming in to buy a suit. You know, you want them to make them feel good, that this is good for them, that the price is right, or it's worth it. And I think it teaches you a lot about getting ready for a job. If you've never had a job before, or something that is maybe like a family job, you can get very comfortable in that environment. But when you're out there doing something like sales, it kind of does make you grow, I would say. There's a bit of exposure there that's very helpful when you end up coming to an adult job like this one.
Nice. And you spent 6 years with Burns Paul, progressing from trainee to senior solicitor. What were the key skills that you learned during that period that prepared you for your current international role?
Well, that's a good question. I would say, again, it's difficult to identify any one or two skills. I'd say I went in as a raw material, and I came out as a product. They shape everything that you do. As a trainee, you have to spend 6 months, 4 6-month seats doing different areas of law. So for me, when I went, I did a bit of banking law, a bit of property law, a bit of corporate finance, and then actually for my 4th seat was what I qualified into, which was construction disputes. And it's a different skill set for each of those 4, but the fact that you do a traineeship that's based on rotating seats means that you come out a more rounded person. So it's less about the legal technical knowledge that you learn then, it's more about gaining the general skill set that you need to become the lawyer that you will eventually need to be for whatever you qualify into. And then after that, once you qualify, it's really about just getting the mileage, doing the work, learning from the people that are more senior than you, teaching you how to manage client expectations, how to draft documents, how to organize. I mean, I think that was the biggest surprise for me, that you could be the best technical lawyer in the world, but you would be a pretty rubbish lawyer if you don't have the full skill set. And a lot of it really is kind of management and communication, liaising with your client, with experts, with witnesses, and with what I do. and I wouldn't say there's any one thing. I'd say Burns Paul was a good firm, and they looked after me and all their trainees, and I have a lot to thank them for.
So, and how does practicing construction law in UAE differ from the UK, both in legal structure and client expectations?
Yeah, good question. So I'm a Scottish lawyer. What am I doing in Dubai? Well, in the field that I do, our disputes are arbitrations. So they're a bit like a private court, if you like. So there's no issues with where you're qualified or rights of audience, because we're not going to a court. We're going to a tribunal, which is appointed by the parties themselves to a contract. So what's different about the market here in the UK? Well, arbitration exists in both, and there's a lot of similarities in that sense, but the type of work that goes on here is different because the scale is massive. The projects in the UAE and the Gulf region are really, really big and exciting projects, huge value. I'm based in Dubai, but in my time that I've been at this firm, I've worked on things in Qatar, I've worked on things in Dubai, currently working on disputes in Saudi Arabia. So there's a much more regional outlook in what I do today than what I did previously in Scotland, which was everything just based in Scotland. And yeah, the budgets are different. Culture-wise, I would say it's different too, because the clients tend to be a bit more, let's say, litigious, a little bit more sure of their positions. They're more willing to risk. They trust your advice here, and they are much less likely to settle. In the UK, I'd say the clients are a lot more cost conscious, more risk averse. The projects might be smaller in scope, but they're not more simple in the UK. They're still very technically different, but the people there that run those companies have a different mindset to the ones here, which is a bit more, let's go bigger, let's go bolder, and they're willing to roll the dice, I would say, a bit more.
And what are some common issues or disputes that arise in measuring construction projects in the Middle East?
Well, like many construction projects, I would say they're always about time or money. So either something wasn't built according to the planning schedule and it's late, or something costs way too much money, or something went wrong with it and it's going to cost lots of money to fix it. So that's common everywhere. I would say there's a lot of very interesting high value luxury projects here, or of a scale that are it's difficult to replicate elsewhere. So with that kind of type of project, you're going to get much more granular issues as well as the same old issues. There's a lot more at stake.
And what would you say was the proudest moment in your career?
Proudest moment in my career, I would say probably, well, I'm hopefully going to say this next year will be the proudest moment in my career, because we've just gone through some big trials here in the past year. We're waiting for the results there. We've worked hard for that. But to date, the proudest thing in my career, I think, is when I was a trainee at that Scottish firm, Burns Paul. I worked on a couple of disputes, adjudication disputes, that turned like a snowball into a bigger dispute, and it went to an arbitration, and it went to a liability hearing, and we got a good result there. And me personally, I'd worked on that for 2 or 3 years. There was other people more senior than me in the team that worked on it for 5 or 6, so it was a very long fought, drawn out war, that one, but we won in the end. And there was a lot of late nights that went into that. I was involved at the junior end, and there was 2 senior partners, so there was a three-person team on that, and it was a lot of work at a very junior stage in my career for me, a lot of responsibility. That was hugely rewarding when we got to see the efforts, what it produced. So I was involved in drafting the witness statements and preparing the expert reports, or helping them to prepare it. There was material scientists involved in that, there was civil engineers, and it was very technical in nature, the project, but I threw myself into it, and I didn't really know how it was going to go in the end, just hoped for the best, and sometimes it surprises you how things turn out in a hearing, and those were good surprises, I would say.
Interesting, and very impressive. And so, what trends are you seeing in the construction law space, particularly in relation to sustainability, digital contracting, and or risk management in large infrastructure projects?
Well, these kind of trends, I would say, are difficult to know in my field specifically. At the disputes end, we're here solving the problems that have arisen from perhaps poor risk management or other goals. So more front end construction, when they make the contracts, that's when they start to push the bar up a bit. For now, we're sorting out the mess. Sustainability-wise, I mean, there's going to be lots of energy projects that are going to go on in this region, which are currently going and will in the future, to do with renewable energy. You know, the Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, is looking to kind of transition more out of its traditional carbon economy into other areas. UAE as well. There's a big solar farm out in the desert somewhere. I haven't seen it, but I've seen another one that's got a big tower on it. It focuses with mirrors, light into the tower. These kind of projects, I think, are going to become more and more common. So in the construction field, sustainability is more to do with energy, I would say. There's less, particularly in this jurisdiction, far less focus on refurbishment, I would say. That's more of a common thing in the UK. So typically, I would say if they don't like something around this region, they knock it down and just build something else. It's kind of famous for that, particularly around fancy houses and villas and that kind of thing. So they've still got a lot of lessons to learn in sustainability around here, but they're trying. They've got some exciting projects. And risk management, I think, as the market matures more and more, I think companies will get used to how they can put in processes that will stop big problems happening in construction projects, but that's why they pay us as well, to help them manage their risk. So let's hope they don't get too good at it.
Very interesting. And what advice do you have for students who are looking to start career in construction disputes or international legal practice?
Well, if you're interested in it now, I would say good on you. That's exciting. And what could you do to develop? Well, I think something I did when I was at school, even before university, is I went and had a look at what was going on in the local courts. So you can't get into every hearing, but if you go down and ask one of the clerks, what's on this week, a bit like a cinema, they'll tell you. And you can have a look and see what's going on. So that's obviously very different. Depends what's going on in the court there to what you might end up doing as a commercial lawyer in the future. But it's nice to start somewhere and see what it's like, and if you like the drama of it all, then that's a good start. But whenever I speak to students, I always feel like they should be open-minded. I think it's good not to be too fixated on one thing, because you never know what might else excite you when it gets along to that point where you try it for yourself. And that's partly what the traineeship is about. When you do law, you got to go around the houses, sit in different seats, see what it's like. When I was at university, I thought perhaps I would be more of a corporate lawyer type. I liked the energy kind of classes that I did. University of Aberdeen, obviously, very good for energy. When I went abroad, I studied in University of Bergen in Norway, and they had a big energy program there. So in my mind, I was all set up to be an energy lawyer. And then when I did my traineeship, I really decided that while disputes is great, it suits me. It's more like a real law. Sorry to all those transactional lawyers out there, but I felt like I identified with it a bit more, that kind of problem solving. And at that point, once you know, then you can throw yourself into it and try and upskill. But things that you can do at university are like debating, or the legal form of that is, mooting. Things like that are good ways to get exposure, test yourself and see if you like it or not. I think it really depends on your personality if you like disputes or not. So people that are interested in it now, that's probably who they are. So good for them. Try and find somebody that does that for a living and talk to them and see what advice they have.
And would you say networking is important in your type of career?
Sorry, say it again?
Would you say networking is important in your type of career?
Networking is absolutely everything. So that's right. You've got to get out there and meet people. Personally, in my job just now, it's all about who are the clients, can you get to meet them. The clients are the ones that kind of will give you business, obviously. So you can have one or two big clients, and you might get a few disputes out of them. But it's good to get out in the market, see what's happening, make yourself available. You never know what will happen. I'm also probably a target as well for other legal services adjacent kind of businesses. Professional consultants or like experts who give advice on delay aspects of a construction claim or defects that they might find, or there's also a discipline for people that just do the numbers, making that sound trivial. It's not. Quantum experts are very well valued, but these kind of people will look for junior lawyers, and they want to network with us and take us out, because once it comes to dispute time, we need to find experts that will help us with the dispute as well. So there's kind of a train of networking that goes on in my role. I'm looking for clients and experts in the like are looking for me. So everybody wins, you know. The more people you know, it'll open doors for you.
Very interesting. And what's your advice for students how to use networking to benefit themselves?
Well, turn up to events, I think, is good. There's lots that goes on at university. I remember from my day. The reason I ended up at that Scottish firm that I was at was because somebody from Burness Paul came down to university, did a talk and gave out their business cards. So that was how I got to know about the firm. Probably could have researched online at that time all the different firms, but having met somebody personally from that firm and asked them those questions, that kind of touch really made it stick in my memory and think, oh, this guy had a lot of good things to say about the firm. I trust him, and we talk to this day every now and then. So students need to, I think about it early, particularly if you're doing something like law, because the way that you get into a pathway for a traineeship can start in the middle of your studies. You can do a summer internship for 6 weeks or so, and through that it's kind of like an audition to get a traineeship contract, and you meet people that way too. But getting in the door in the first place, getting feelers out, getting to know people, turn up to events, reach out through organisations such as yourself. I mean, this is what a fabulous opportunity to connect people. If there's anybody who wants to hear more about what I do, they can contact you or contact me, and I'll give them the honest answers. So yeah, it's, if you're not networking at university, you're just kind of hoping something's going to fall into your lap, isn't it, really? So.
And two last questions. Are there any books or podcasts you would recommend for our students? It might be career or non-career related. Podcasts
and books. Well, I would have to give a shout out to somebody that works in my team for a textbook, because they wrote the textbook on construction law in UAE, Michael Gross. So if you're looking to do that kind of work, then I would read that book. I would say podcasts that I like factual ones. They're not necessarily related to my job. This podcast run by a gentleman called Lex Friedman. I enjoy his podcast. He interviews people mainly in kind of science or in politics. Just kind of something that gets you going, makes you think about things, can only, I really think, be good for you. Everybody enjoys watching a bit of trash TV there, but what did you really learn from that? So I like the kind of documentary factual stuff. And I don't listen to too many of the podcasts that are like Diary of a CEO, but I'm sure they're probably valuable as well. I just kind of like to learn about random things, like who built the pyramids, and you know, topical things like what's going on in the world today.
And the last question is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
My younger self? How young?
University.
University level. I would say it's good to trust yourself. Trust in the process is what you're doing. Sometimes university, you know that you're working hard for a greater purpose in the end, but you don't know what that purpose is. So you've got to trust in the process, believe in yourself, and stay true to yourself. And that sounds very cliche, but I think it's good to focus on who you are, not try and be someone you're not. I've got to where I am today, I think. I'm not saying I'm done yet, but I've got where I am just being myself and being honest, and I think that's what people really connect with. You know, it's pretty obvious if somebody turns up into a room and they feel like they don't belong there, even if they maybe do. They've got to trust themselves, but equally if they turn up somewhere and they start saying things that you just think are a bit odd or a bit strange, it's difficult for you to then trust them. So yeah, trust yourself, be yourself, and it will all be